Welcome to the latest edition of Apt with Money. This is a series designed to help you better use your finances to live the lifestyle that you want. I am your host, Luke Madison, and today I am joined by Andrew Dunbar from Apt Wealth Partners. Andrew is a senior financial advisor and director at Apt Wealth. When he's not busy working on the futures of his clients, he spends a lot of his time with his two children, Jack and Charlotte, and he's a big fan of his beloved Carlton Football Club. Andrew, thank you for your time.
Good to talk to you, Luke.
Now, Andrew, we're going to tackle a big subject today, and one that is, I'm sure, on the mind of many Australians at the moment, and that is, how much do I need to retire? It's a question that has many things to discuss and many angles to look at. So when we're trying to work this out, Andrew, what's the kind of figures that we need, and what are the things that are holding us back?
Yeah, well, this is the question we get asked the most. And I think in this COVID-19 pandemic, probably even more so. And I've heard a lot of commentators saying things like, people will have to delay their retirement because of the COVID-19 situation. And that may be true in some circumstances, but certainly not in all. So if you think you are in that position, we just wrote an article about this, and I encourage you to log onto our website and have a read of that. But look, generally speaking, a stat I find incredible is that 1 in 5 Australians think about retirement daily or often. Now, it's a dream for many, and I think pretty much all Australians, no matter their level of wealth, believe they won't have enough for their dream retirement. Just the thought of planning retirement can be overwhelming. Now, that often leads us to do nothing about it or procrastinate. And when it comes to planning for retirement, inactivity is your enemy. Many of us intend to rely on our superannuation, yet close to half of retirees in Australia currently rely on the age pension as their main source of income. So now's the time to stop thinking and start planning. And the first step to setting a plan for your retirement is to understand what it actually costs you to retire comfortably. Retirement looks different to everyone. So how much will you need to maintain the lifestyle that you want? While online tools and calculators can be helpful as a guide, how much you need to retire really depends on the specifics of the lifestyle that you want. And as retirement draws closer, you really need to be thinking about that on a micro level. So that means examining your current lifestyle in detail, understanding the amount you spend on everything from groceries to fuel to dining out, cosmetic and personal care to travel. And as well as considering other financial goals like supporting your kids or grandkids into property. Now, the Australian Bureau of Statistics and the Association of Super Funds release a quarterly report on what they say it costs to live a comfortable retirement. And that is, having a good car, good clothes, electronic equipment, eating out, domestic travel, and occasional overseas travel. And at the moment, you'll need $44,000 a year if you're a single, and just over $62,000 a year as a couple. So for a couple to achieve that, they say you need about $640,000 in superannuation. But it's up to everyone to ask themselves, could I live comfortably with peace of mind on that amount?
Yeah, that is an interesting question, right? You've got to have a good think about where you're going to spend your time and those lifestyle choices you want to make, because in a lot of cases, that $640K may not be enough.
Exactly. A good example is travel. Now, many of our clients plan to spend a large part of their retirement traveling. And if you want to take overseas holidays, for example, the retirement standard, I think, allows just under $1,500 a year. Now, that might be enough for some, but for many, this will fall significantly short.
Yeah, really good point. And where's the right place to start with that, Andrew? How do you get to understand your current spending and what you think you'll spend in retirement?
Yeah, well, the actual figure that you'll need depends on the lifestyle that you want to live, including a wide range of discretionary costs, like whether you want to renovate your home, downsize your home, help the kids and grandkids financially, upgrade your cars regularly, etc. So many people aim for the magical $1 million mark, but others require a lot more than that. The only way to know how much you'll need is to plan out your costs, and there's a lot of tools around to help you do that, and then seek professional advice to make sure you've got the full picture.
So once you've got that basic idea in place and you've got that spend calculated, what's the next step?
Well, the first action we recommend for most of our clients is maximise your superannuation. It's one of the last free lunches and can provide you a tax-free income in retirement. Get an understanding of what contributions you can make and how your money's invested, and a financial advisor can help you with that.
Looking at that piece there, what sort of information are you looking for?
Well, the government's always changing the legislation, what you can and can't do with your superannuation. So we spend a huge amount of our time staying on top of that. Now, some of this is a little bit technical, but if you're approaching the last decade of your work, it's more important than ever to take advantage of the concessional contribution limits each year. And recent legislation even enables you to roll over your unused concessional cap and catch up those contributions over a 5-year period, provided your super is lower than 500,000. If you're 65 and over and ready to downsize your home, you can potentially contribute up to $300,000 per person to super, and it won't count towards your non-concessional cap, your $1.6 million super cap, or the age and work test requirements. And then there's some little known tricks and tips with measures such as the government co-contribution, where the government will match certain contributions, and the spouse contribution, which provides a tax offset to certain individuals.
So talking about your super fund, is it a good practice to have a basic understanding of how that's made up and the investments that are included as a part of it?
Yeah, I think it's critical to review and understand your investment options within the super fund. Now, professional advice can be invaluable to guide you through those options and make sure that you're protecting and maximising your funds.
So with that piece then, that's a really valid point, and having a think about that. Keeping up to date with legislation, getting that basic understanding, really good tips. Let's switch tacks a little bit on that. You mentioned at the beginning, obviously, it's a very interesting time and something that you're seeing a lot of questions now, given that we're in this COVID-19 pandemic period. And I think for a lot of people, it's probably put some fear into them around their retirement and with the volatility of the market and these kind of things. If you are continuing planning your retirement now, or even going into retirement during this period, what are the things you need to think about during the COVID-19 period?
Yeah, market downturns are always unpleasant, but the closer you get to retirement, the more vulnerable they can leave you. On the other hand, keeping your money in cash, earning no more than the current very low interest rates, just isn't going to make you the returns that most of us need for a comfortable retirement. So while you can't control the market, what you can control is how and where you invest your hard-earned money. Make sure you understand the investments and what they mean for you. Now, market downturns are going to occur multiple times throughout your retirement years. You have to be set up to be prepared for them to occur at any time. And if you've done this well, the timing of your retirement really shouldn't matter. We have many people who are currently proceeding with their retirement plans because they've set up their investments to be prepared for any event. And I know we covered this in detail in our last video on structuring your superannuation. Now, also, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's important to understand changes to government entitlements. The recent Australian government stimulus package has opened up a range of government entitlements and changes to existing benefits, including lowering the deeming rate for Centrelink and temporarily lowering the minimum superannuation drawdown requirements. Now, these can potentially assist with your retirement decision.
Some really good advice as well, Andrew, and I think that point around there being many potential financial storms you need to weather during your retirement is probably a valid one. Is there any final tips you'd sort of leave our viewers and listeners around planning for their retirement?
Yes, the last piece of advice I'd give, based on Apt's experience of working with thousands of Australians who've gone through this journey, and it's one of the most important and often overlooked, and that is plan for the emotional transition. Retirement is more than just a lifestyle change, it's a complete identity shift. It's an emotional time when your social structure, your purpose, your routine, and your finances change considerably. Now, one strategy to deal with this is, as we call it, set a date. Now, setting a date for your retirement can be a helpful way to make it feel like a reality and give you a time frame for working towards your financial goal, even if you change the date later. It can also help overcome the psychological barriers and increase the chances of sticking to your plan. A transition to retirement strategy is another strategy for those that are able to do it. Now, this allows you to ease your way in and find a rhythm, build the hobbies, the social connections and the routine before you make that final leap. There's no doubt the emotional transition to retirement is as important as the financial one. And I think at the moment, it can feel even harder to navigate that as our lives have changed so dramatically through this COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, really good point. I think the emotional transition is something that people often overlook, and it can be quite daunting when you get those changes to your routine and your lifestyle. It's something you need to consider when you're thinking about your retirement. A really good point, kind of to raise and end on, Andrew. Thank you for that. For those of you who are looking for financial advice, I certainly suggest that you visit our website, aptwealth.com.au, and book in for your obligation-free consultation to talk to one of the Apt Wealth financial advisors. Andrew, thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Luke.
See you on the next episode of Apt with Money.